welcome to Ecom Power. We're back. How's
We're
it
back.
going, Michal?
It's it's hot. It's the summer is here,
It's
and I know you
cold
had
over here.
yeah, but you had a couple of nice days. So
Couple. Got
we're
to
in
squeeze.
April. Like
Hmm?
we're in April. I'm like, what? I cannot believe it. It was just like yesterday was the New Year, and it's already April. So kind of exciting. I think it's I don't know. I love April. It's my one of my favorite months.
No, I'm not.
No, no, you don't have a
Rain.
favorite month.
Yeah, in summer, not when it's rain. Could be snow. Could freeze over. Nope. Nope. It's cold right now
No.
here. But anyways, Walmart is hot. How's
Yes,
that? How's that?
Walmart
Okay.
is getting hot.
So, for this podcast, welcome to the Walmart Marketplace podcast. Today, we're going to be discussing top marketing tactics and trends for business growth. We're also going to be talking about common channels or the most common channels our guest runs ads on. Um, what companies are doing wrong about meta advertising, and why our guest is so bullish on TikTok for marketing and advertising. So, welcome to Ecom Power. And now, a quick word from our sponsor. Do you know what Walmart really owes you? Well, let the team over at Refund Stacker check into lost and misplaced inventory, incorrect WSF fees, return and refund disputes, and more. Refund Stacker uses a two-way approach when processing your reimbursement claims. Their proprietary software helps them find issues, and then their experienced team of account auditors will help open cases and communicate with Walmart on your behalf. Check out Refund Stacker and get the first month of reimbursements absolutely 100% free. All you need to do is use code FIRSTMONTHFREE. And remember, you just pay as you go. You can cancel at any time. So check out Refund Stacker today at refundstacker.com. All right, we're
All
back.
right, we're back. So, again, welcome back to the Ecom Power podcast. And our guest today worked in the advertising for 20 years, and he's the CEO of Brill Media, a digital advertising agency for scalable business growth. His company has been honored 10 times across the Inc. 500 and Financial Times 500. So, welcome, Robert Brill.
Thanks, Michal. Thanks, Norm. Really appreciate it. Great to see you.
Yeah, and you too, Robert. How's it going?
Oh, things are good. Things are good. I'm enjoying as we get closer to summer. It's nice.
I am
Yes.
too. I'm just curious because Mikkel's hot. I'm
Yeah,
cold. Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Los Angeles. It's comfortable.
Oh, comfortable. You're right. Like it's Goldilocks, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like the best weather in the world.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, you guys cannot complain, even though you had a rough winter. But I think
yeah,
it's over.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
horrible winter. Tried coming up here.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Nothing to complain about.
So, Robert, why don't we start off by just talking about some of the common channels? Like, there's so many social media networks out there right now. And where are you seeing sellers put their money?
Yeah. So 47% of all digital ad spend in 2024 will be delivered on Meta and Google. So if you're selling something off Amazon, you're going to be on those platforms. And the reason for that is because Facebook has the most powerful algorithm in the marketplace for connecting businesses to consumers. And Google is the absolute best at converting immediate interest into a click that results in a sale. So,
So,
yeah.
I've got a question about that. Uh, Back in the day, that could be a few years ago, but Facebook was still fairly cheap to do
Mhm.
marketing and advertising. Nowadays, it seems that if you're not at a certain price point, and of course, let's just take the average product, but if I would say probably maybe $50, if you're not,
Mhm.
if your product's not at $50,
Mhm.
is it harder to sell or is it worth selling on Facebook?
It depends. Do you have a brand or not? Because
Right. I okay.
the brand is what people know and feel about you. So when we, for example, sell tickets to, shows Cardi B, Hugh Jackman, Kiss, etc. at venues all across the country, there's brand built into that. So a return on ad spend is dramatic. It's like between 2,000% and 6,000%. So it's massive. And so, but a big part of that is because people are very interested in those brands. But if you're let's say you're a manufacturer out of China and you're selling something that people have no recognition of the name, then it's going to be much harder to sell.
Oh, right. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I have a question about advertising in Facebook and everything. So what companies get wrong when they're advertising at Meta?
Yeah, so the old way of running ads on Meta is you create a lot of different ad groups and you have a lot of very niche targeting audiences, and you're using their interest in keywords, lookalikes, and remarketing. That's like 2017 technology. It's like you have an iPhone and the 2017 iPhone is good, but the 2023 or 24 iPhone is going to be much better. The much better version of that targeting is broad targeting, age, gender, and location. And the idea is that Meta is so good at routing your ad creative to the people who are most interested in what you have to say that you give it broad scope to find your people, and it will connect your people to your ad creative to the people who are interested in what you have to sell right now.
Yeah,
So not near as complicated as it was.
It's actually far easier. Yeah, it's far easier. But what you pay for is the knowledge of the methods and practices to figure out how it works, and not to make bad investments by doing all the keyword and interest targeting.
Oh, there's an
all
awkward
right.
pause.
You wanna
Go.
you wanna take the next question? I pause because I have 2 dogs in my office right now. Hopefully they're not gonna stop
I
barking.
thought I heard
It is
something, but
live.
you muted pretty
It is
quick.
live. It is live, yeah.
All good. You like dogs?
All right. So, another question that comes to mind is about your vision. I know we talked pre-podcast, but about TikTok and why you're bullish on it.
Yeah, I mean, TikTok is the town square. It's the place where people go to spend inordinate amount of time to veg out late at night when everyone else is sleeping and you just need to fall asleep. You're on TikTok scrolling, and there's all kinds of information there. So I think as a business, you want to be programmed into that feed of content that your customers are getting. TikTok also has a great algorithm. I don't think it's as strong as Facebook's, but it's very strong as well. And so if you know how to put together a message, or you know how to pay influencers to put together a message for you, your content can be primetime programmed right into the consumer's feed in a way that's going to be meaningful for your business. But the challenge with TikTok is it takes practice. Just like with everything, if you know how to do it effectively, it'll work really well. But to get to that point of high levels of effectiveness, you've got to just practice. And it's not about practicing. It's about practicing the way to communicate to people in a way that's interesting to them. Something as simple as changing your intro to a video can have a dramatic effect on how interesting people find the video, because they just get pulled into it. Retention is a big part of how TikTok videos go viral. So you want people to watch as much as possible, and that's going to tell the algorithm that people are actually very interested in what you have to say.
It's interesting. So Kelsey, you know Kelsey, he's our producer. We were doing some TikTok for our Amazon product, not Walmart product, but who cares? I mean, one of the products that we sell on these platforms. And I was doing TikTok. I was trying to do it, and I'm just an old guy with a beard, and really got like very few views.
Yeah.
And I was trying my heart out. He goes up, he does his thing, and 500,000 views, 300,000
Really?
views, 200,000 views. And I can't say that's the average, but at one point, I think it was 10 or 20,000. It was crazy. Yeah. But you hit that virality, I guess that's a word, but once it goes viral,
Yeah.
It's incredible. And I don't think, Kelsey, I don't know if you want to tune in here, but what you did for that specific video, I know it was during a Prime Day, so that did help, but there was nothing special, right? It just took off.
Yeah, I find there's certain trends that you follow on TikTok, and of course that comes with like seasonality and different events. So like Prime Day, TikTok will definitely focus. They can see people's interest peak around Prime Day keywords, and if you're saying Prime Day, if it's in your titles or your captions, it's going to pick that up and kind of ride that out. So specifically around those bigger events, that's when you'll see those spikes. So, you have to form your videos around what people talk about and are caring about at that time. So maybe it's how to find the best Prime Day deals, or my top 5 Prime Day deals that I found, or you can be like really specific and talk specifically about like tech Prime Day deals. And there's a bunch of different strategies and techniques you can kind of go off of, but yeah, it's following those different trends and peaks are really important for TikTok.
Yeah.
What's Kelsey's account? I want to start following.
You changed the account on me.
Yeah, it's called Deals with Kelsey.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Okay.
deals with Kelsey instead of lunch with Norm deals. Thanks,
Yeah,
Kelsey.
I had to cut out the beard guy.
But it's like everything else that we do in the advertise world. But here in TikTok, it's interesting because you need to know what TikTok want to show the people, and that's come from what's trending. So we using that, like when we try to sell a product, we use keywords that customer looking for. So this is how we optimize it for our clients. But here, like, this is such a good point. Like, if we know right now what TikTok is looking for, then we create that content and then they will promote it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different for an e-commerce store than B2B. A lot of what I focus on is B2B, and I think consistency plays a big part in it. On studying the practice of, as Kelsey mentioned, understanding the intricacies of what works for your niche at a moment in time is going to become very, very important.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So for companies that are don't have a lot of experience, like we talked about, a lot of our listeners, they have brands, they own brands, they're selling on Walmart, they're selling on Amazon. They're usually using those platforms to advertise. So for those companies, what is the best way for them to start advertising, and what advice can you give them?
yeah, absolutely. So I think probably Google and Meta are going to be your 2 biggest platforms just based off of the larger macro trends here. Then when you look at Google specifically, there's Performance Max, where your ads get delivered across different platforms, including Gmail, YouTube, banners, and Google search placements. Then you have Google Shopping, which could be very valuable to capitalize on people searching for your products and services. So those are the 2 things that I would be doing, followed by the third thing is just standard Google keyword search, and look at like phrase match and start narrow and then go broad on Google, because you have a lot of opportunity to spend a lot of money, but you don't want to spend it in a non-profitable way. So being a little narrow at the beginning is helpful. When you look at Meta, you go the opposite way, you go broad. So we were talking about the age, gender, and location, and then you want to follow that. There's kind of like 2 creative approaches on Meta that could be relevant. Number 1 is product ads, especially if you're connected to Shopify or a similar system where it pulls in the imagery from the feed, and the Shopify ad, the Shopify image gets populated in an ad, and you're targeting people who have the interest. The alternative is to do a creative testing framework. And we go into detail on this in a video, but the basic idea on a creative testing framework is, number 1, all you have to do is create 5 ads per month. That's it. Number 2, you're going to disassemble all of those ads. So when you have a Facebook or a Meta ad, you have 3 elements. You have the primary text at the top, the image or video in the middle, and the headline at the bottom. So what you're really saying is, I want to mix and match all the possible variations. So when you have all those different elements, you have 125 possible ad variations. And when you do that, you then have the ability to spend about a month to understand which one ad out of the 125 is your all-star ad. And 90% of that budget that you allocate to this testing framework will go to optimizing to a sale, by the way. So you're not spending all of your monthly budget trying to figure out which one ad. In fact, the sales component is going to be very important to understanding what's effective for you. So at the end of the month, you're going to have this one all-star ad, and you will start to understand over a few months which products, discounts, offers, and even audiences really resonate with your customers, because the creative is an indicator of who your customer actually is and the types of messaging that really resonates in the marketplace. So for example, you can show your product, you can show people using your product, you can show the outcome of people using your product, you can show hands, you can show buildings, you can show faces. So those you will, and you will start to understand the faces and products are probably going to perform the best for e-commerce. So what you want to understand is what's the best way to communicate to your audience to get the algorithm to find your people. Because what you're doing in practice by deploying this broad targeting and this creative testing framework is you are training Meta's machine learning algorithm to find your best customers. It's far easier to run because you have far fewer ad sets to build. And then secondly, you're using Meta the way Meta tells you to use Meta, because they have this thing called Performance 5, and they talk about simplified ad account structure and whatnot. So this is the application of that Performance 5 in a way that's actually going to build your business. So you can spend $1,000 one month, and then a few months later, you jump up to 10,000, then jump up to 100,000. So there's exponential opportunity there, and it all happens profitably.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm very curious. So when you start campaigns on Meta, and again, we talked about the different options, and in average, how long does it take till Meta kind of already start performing good and finding, starting to do a better job in finding your right customers? Like, is it like a matter of days, weeks?
Weeks. I think you will give that. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm asking that because, one of the things a lot of people, when they start advertising, they're expecting the first week to get results, and it's never, no platform will give you, the
Sure.
ultimate result in 1 week. But I know, for example, when you advertise with Walmart or Google, it does take a couple of weeks. So I'm just curious to.
At the least, it's a month. I would give it at least a month. Usually we try to run campaigns minimum for 3 months. So we have time. What time is on your side in this equation? The more the algorithm runs, the more it starts to understand who your best customers are. You also have the benefit of cycling through a few creative variations, and you're going to see most of your sales are going to come from your absolute all-star ads.
Mm-hmm.
So the combination of those factors is where time is on your side.
All right.
Okay, I want to go down a different rabbit hole.
Okay.
I am a systems guy.
Okay.
Been building systems since 1995. Thank you, Peter Gerber and the eMyth.
Yeah.
So with you and your system that you work with, do you start building out SOPs? Do you have a SOP for the different types of ad campaigns that you're building?
Yeah, I mean, SOPs permeate throughout our business. There was a moment in time where we tripled our staff over the course of a summer, and no one was happy. I wasn't happy because I was doing more work. The people we hired weren't happy, and our clients were starting to grumble a little bit about performance. And so the result is we had to figure out standard operating procedures, which has been such a clearing for growth. It's the ability to set responsibility so that we know, everyone in the business knows when their responsibility starts and when it stops and when they pass it on to the next person. People in that system start to become happier because they know that they're succeeding at their given job. They stay with the business longer. Their output performs because you start to learn that tribal knowledge of the intricacies of the business at any given moment. Client output clients are happier because we're doing more for them, and then we can grow again. And so every step of the way when we run campaigns, we have SOPs. So there's a launch campaign. So a lot of the work we do is on display banner ads, programmatic campaigns, like on local news and sports sites, where we can get very granular on the targeting, which works tremendously well. Hyper-local targeting, interest targeting, behavior targeting, etc. And so at every step of the way, we have a launch process, for example. So there's a series of 10 steps that we do every time we launch a campaign. We'll place the pixels, we'll QA the pixels to make sure they work. We'll launch the campaign. We'll QA the pixels again just to double check that they work. We're going to look at the data sets that are performing in our programmatic or display campaigns. So there's a ton of things that are happening on the back end to ensure that we're successful. Along the way, the benefit here is that clients know exactly the work that is being done for them. And if anything happens outside of that process or outside of that system, we can point to it and say, look, we didn't follow the process here. And either there's a learning that we need to do, or we need to go back to the client and say, you were part of the problem, right? Your process, you didn't follow the process that we had all set ultimately. And that's really important here, because a lot of the work that we do is we partner with other agencies, and those agencies are the ones who have the direct advertiser relationship, and our job is to do the ad buying. So it's really important for us, for the success of our business, that we have systems and processes that coordinate our business and coordinate outside of our business with our clients.
So I love systems, like I just said, but what I found is over time, anyways, a lot of the times, and this is just through experience, but I found that when I started writing these, that I was the problem. It wasn't the VA. I either made a mistake in the step, so the in-between steps were too broad, and so we had to break them down, or it was the interface that changed. And so these things have to be kept up to date at all times. I'm just curious, what system are you using? Are you using the eMyth? Are you using EOS? Do you know?
No, it's homegrown.
Homegrown.
We're actually, when we hired our first, I forget what title he started out with, but he quickly became our chief operating officer. So we all had an offsite in Vegas in 2019. We had some conversations, and he wrote down, he extracted it from my brain and said, okay, when we launch a campaign, what are the things you do? Now, it's not everything. It's not purely out of my brain. Then the next step is refine it with our media director and our buyers, etc. But at the end of the day, you have a list of systems. What we're doing right now is we're working with Scalable to further refine the process, to map out visually our growth platform, our growth value engines, which is what they call it, like, every action that happens across the campaign or the sales process to ensure that we get a campaign. And then we're assigning owners to each of the playbooks that we have. And those owners will be responsible for refining the process every 90 days.
Okay, very good.
And I agree with your point. It's when something goes wrong, it's usually not the person who's doing the job. It's usually the person who gave them the responsibility, that they can give them too much detail, or give them on the wrong path, or put them on the wrong path, or didn't verify that the message that was sent was a message that was received.
All right.
I think that's a good point. In talking about VA, I think there's no perfect time to go to our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Are you struggling with your Walmart marketplace business? Do you need help from a skilled and reliable virtual assistant? Well, look no further than Virtual Assistant Academy, or VAA Philippines. VAA specializes in locating, screening, training, and supporting high-quality Walmart VAs in the Philippines. Their VAs receive extensive Walmart training and ongoing professional development, and are committed to long-term working relationships with you. Partner with VAA and experience the peace of mind knowing that you have a dedicated Walmart-trained VA who's up to date with the latest tools and trends in the dynamic Walmart marketplace. Head over to VAAphilippines.com and let VAA match you with your ideal VA today. All right, we're back.
All right. So, Robert, can you tell us how you started that business? You're doing it for so many years, and what went wrong along the way?
Yeah. Pretty much everything went wrong along the way. So basically, 2003 is when I was still in college and had a job that I would say started my career. I worked at Universal Music, then Universal McCann on working on Sony Pictures advertising. So the entire 20 years span of my career advertising, most exclusively at agencies. And then 2013, I had been in the business for 10 years, and I said, well, I think there's a moment the company I was working for went away. They went bankrupt. And basically I was like, all right, so do I start this whole thing all over again with another company, or am I going to just go to the effort and start it for myself? And I certainly decided to start it for myself. I realized that I think the risk of having a full-time job, it was the idea for me was having a full-time job, being employed was a less risky maneuver than going out and starting a business. But I think it wasn't as risk averse being employed as I thought it would be, because I saw like salespeople having to move jobs every 18 months and agencies were shutting down, and it was tough. So I started my own thing. And immediately when I started my own thing, I said, okay, I'm not ready for this. So I just took a full-time job. I literally just took a full-time job. I was like, I'll deal with this later. I wasn't very passionate about the work I was doing at that full-time job. So basically February 2015, I was back unemployed doing my own thing again. So that's when I said, okay, I'm going to really focus on my business. So, the first points of failure were like, it took me like a year and a half to just get up the energy to start an LLC, like just the legal filings. Then it took me 3 months of trying to make it work, of saying, I tap out, I can't do this right now. So I took a full-time job. And then when I started in February 2015, going all in on this business, I started 4 businesses, which was the wrong move. Social marketing, influencer marketing, consulting. I was going to be an influencer. That was a business model. And the thing that worked the best is, no surprise, the thing I had been doing for over a decade at that point, which is digital ad buying. And so learning there, don't start 4 things, start 1 thing and make it the thing that you have a zone of genius in. And everything along the way, like, it was basically like robust failure until it wasn't. There was a moment in time where like I was over servicing a $500 a month client, which you can't live on $500 a month in Los Angeles. And I didn't have enough clients. I didn't know how to get clients. So I was resourceful. And one of the things I did is I started partnering with other people who I'd known in the business, people who could open doors for me. And I gave them, opportunities to earn money inside the business in exchange for them opening doors for me. And that's how I started getting clients. So I think the failure component is important to understand, to refine that muscle to create success. And it doesn't happen quickly. It happens over time. But when it happens, it's very valuable.
Quite a journey.
Yeah, it's a journey. I'd like to circle back and talk a little bit more about TikTok.
Okay.
All right. We all know what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And would you advise listeners to invest in their TikTok account, get influencers, and just continue growing on TikTok? Or would you be cautious?
I think, first of all, the short answer is yes, I would advise that. But I would say every decision you make has to be part of a strategy, because the strategy is your navigation plan. The strategy helps you define where you want to go, and then the steps along the way that will allow you to get there. So TikTok probably for many e-commerce should be part of your marketing strategy, because even if TikTok goes away, the muscle you'll build about learning how to communicate is going to be very important. And like, you can just take the type of, so a big part of communicating effectively on TikTok means you're going to, like, when you post organically, you're going to understand the types of videos you create that are really relevant to your audience. And as long as you have ownership of that content, you save it on your hard drive, you can reuse that information, those videos later in ads. So some of the best ads we run are influencer content or UGC content that's made to look like influencers, but it's just made by someone who knows how to film in a certain style. but doesn't have an audience. But that style of content, when it's done right, does really well with advertising. So a lot of what we advise is post on TikTok, identify your best performing pieces of content that are going to help you sell, and then run those as ads elsewhere.
I've noticed on TikTok, I've always been brought up about brand consistency.
Yeah.
And I see that on Facebook or any of the other platforms, Pinterest, Instagram. On TikTok, I see a lot of brands breaking and coming out of this brand consistency.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that? Because you have to kind of evolve to the platform. I'm just wondering what you think of that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't pay attention too closely to brands and how they're communicating on TikTok. What I'll say is I think what works on TikTok is figuring out one sweet spot of content and just doing it repeatedly. Like I don't know, this is an old reference, but like there was an episode on The Simpsons in like 1992 or something where he got really famous. He went on the Tonight Show and everything, where Bart got really famous, went on the Tonight Show. And the only, like, he had just one catchphrase: eat my shorts.
Yep.
And like everywhere you go, eat my shorts.
Yeah.
Until it got old. But that's what you've got to do on TikTok. Like when you find something that works, you've got to find 1,000 different ways to say the exact same information in a slightly different manner. Those are the best TikTok accounts. So I agree that there needs to be consistency, and I also understand that brands are going outside of their guidelines or their brand norms on TikTok because they've got to be different. Like no one would have expected success from I'm trying to think about like Washington Post, but they're doing good on TikTok. Like that's as dry as you get, the Washington Post or the New York Times. And these news content sites are like using their own style to communicate and get attention for their brands.
Very good.
Robert, you were saying that I'm guessing you helping clients advertise on TikTok. You say you guys creating videos that look like it's an influencer and then you run it as ads. Can you tell us a little bit about who's a good in what point of the business people should think about to do something like that? Like how expensive it is? Is it something that small business can do, or they have to have really big budget to actually create that kind of video, professional video?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably like $3,000 to $5,000 a month would be a good budget in terms of not creating the video, but like creating the video, and then running the ads.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably do it for less. Realistically, depends on like you can send out product to an influencer, and it's just the cost of your product. There's no discrete sale, and then that turns into the route of running ads that are effective, right? So you work with micro influencers, really small influencers, or anyone that knows how to create content. They'll create the content for you. They're getting some swag or whatever the product is that you're selling, and I actually would rather go the volume play, because eventually that needle in a haystack will show up and you'll get like some amazing content creator who like has 4,000 people on TikTok, but they're like amazing. And that's going to be your ad. So like run ads for $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month. That's how I would start. It's a lot of legwork. Like the influencer marketing route is a lot of legwork. It's a lot of dealing with people, a lot of organization. And there's the human factor that's a little bit unknown, which is why we stick to ads, because like we know how to control the algorithms.
Yeah, that human factor can kill you. Waiting on people or people not returning information.
Right.
And I really like what you said about volume. These nano influencers, they're hungry. They want work. And if you can find a group of good, like, a lot of them are going to suck.
Yeah.
And, they're going to give you crap content, or you're not going to get any content. But the ones that you can nail down and just get a couple of good videos, it starts to build up over time. And now you start to build up. You could even, and I've seen this happen, where a nano influencer all of a sudden, because they like your product so much, becomes more of a brand ambassador than just an influencer.
I mean, at the end of the day, we're all looking for partnerships,
right?
And those partnerships become strategic when there's a lot more value to add. and there's a long working relationship. And that's with our business, that's with the influencer business. That's really, I mean, it's really, it just comes down to people. Do people like working with other individuals? Super valuable.
Kelsey doesn't like working with anybody. He's a one-man show. Joking, Kels.
All right. So, Norm, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, just one. The trends. So, what trends are you seeing right now?
Yeah. So the big general trends across advertising is, number one, the power of the algorithm is becoming like the focal point. So going back to Meta, you're not relying on the granular targeting parameters. You're relying on the broad targeting for the algorithm to find your audience. The same is happening on Google with Performance Max. And even when you run keyword campaigns, Google search campaigns, you're uploading 15 different headlines and 4 descriptions, and you're letting Google mix and match the headlines and descriptions that really resonate for customers. You're seeing the same thing with TikTok smart performance ads, where you place the pixel, you upload the creative, and then TikTok is going to go and find your customers. So you're really, like, when you're buying ads inside these big platforms, a lot of what you're doing is relying on the algorithm. But that's not exclusively the way it is. When you buy banners, it's still very granular. When you buy ads on Reddit, it's still very granular. You can target by subreddit. It's good stuff. Then I think the other trend is that creative is always going to be the king. Whatever, if you're not getting the results you're looking for, of course, you've got to audit whether or not you have a good ad buying team, because they're getting your ads in front of the right people with the methods and practices that work. But really, it all comes down to creative. Hence the creative testing framework, so you can understand which creative executions actually resonate for people. So what we do with the creative testing framework for ourselves and our clients was, we sell far better, far more effectively on LinkedIn than we do on Meta. So we go through the rounds of creative testing on Meta, and then we deploy those ads on LinkedIn, with the idea that we've done some curation to understand, out of 125 or more, which ads are the most effective. And then the last trend, there's 2 things. Number one, it's the last 2 things are going to be, advertising is like an orchestra. There's 37 violinists and whoever else is in the orchestra, whatever it is. You take any one of them out and you have them play on their own, they'll sound great, but you're not going to get the symphony of sales until you think about all the marketing and advertising tactics that you do. So what you post, how you do the measurement, the optimizations that you make, the testing frameworks that you deploy, all the different channels that you run. So for example, when you run ads on Hulu, they're likely to be less effective. They're not going to pay out from a conversion perspective. But people who see your video ads on Hulu are going to then search for you on Google. So your Google search ads start to do better, right? But the inexperienced person says, well, we should turn off Hulu. The experienced person says, well, Hulu is driving the demand that results in the searches that are improving our SEO and improving our Google search advertising. So that ties back to just historical knowledge and working with someone who's experienced in this place. And the last part is strategy. You've got to know what you're trying to achieve, because knowing what you're trying to achieve will help you make the decisions to get there from where you are today.
I had a mentor tell me once, this is way back earlier on, well, not way back, but he said, just because you have an iPhone doesn't make you a photographer. Okay. And, there's so many people that try to do their own copy, and it sucks, and do graphics because they're not a graphic artist, and it sucks. So, I would always recommend trying to, find people that are, this is the place to spend money. Good copy. Look at, The Beast. I'm going to say, yes, I know him. I'm not that old, but he spends all his time and tons of money on that thumbnail.
Yeah. Mr. Beast. That's right.
Yeah.
It's important. You got to pay for experts.
Is it Mr. or the Beast?
It's Mr.
Okay.
I was trying to think the Beast. Is that a wrestler?
Yeah. I see.
Yeah, he's the empire today. He's not just he's not just a YouTuber, he's an empire. You have merchandise
Absolutely.
in Walmart. Walmart is selling their, every time I go, I see something as chocolate cookies. It's like,
Burgers.
and kids love it. Burgers, yeah. What he did with the burgers was so smart. He just found a local restaurant, and then he paid them to prepare his burger, and he advertised. So people looking for his burger, they find a local place, and then you go there, and it's like a restaurant, and it's like, you don't understand why you got to this restaurant, it's not Mr. Beast. And then you come inside, and they have like, the burger is ready and waiting for you. It happened to me with my son, made me go get him Mr. Beast
How was
burger.
it?
But it's genius.
Yeah.
I think it was good. No, but he's a genius. He's a genius in everything he does, I think.
Yeah. Thumbnails.
Thumbnails.
Yeah,
right.
I want to say,
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I so agree with everything you guys were just talking about. Get things done professionally. If you advertise, find, the best place that can help you, like Robert. If you create content, find the best copywriter, and the same with everything else. And another thing that you said that was so interesting, and I hear it all the time, like you say about Hulu, that people advertise there and they don't understand that. And they think it's the spending money, but they're creating that brand awareness, and then people go and search on Google. And I hear it with a lot of brands that advertising, even on TikTok and things like that. When there's days that people advertising a lot of different platforms, they see more sales, because sales coming directly to their website or even Amazon, Walmart, and the advertising is actually going on different platforms. So that's such a good tip.
Thanks. Got to do it.
Yes.
And I
Love
think
it.
we're coming to the end of the podcast. Robert, can you give us your contact information?
Yeah, gladly. Website is brillmedia.co, and hit the start now button, and you can have a strategy conversation with me.
Fantastic. All right. I think that's it for today. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Dawn.
See you
Thanks, Michal.
next week. Bye.
Bye.